Most people see a tornado and they run, fast. But some willingly drive right into the meat of it. Until May 2013, the storm didn't just move, it turned. It hunted the hunters. Let's dive into this explainer and see how it all went so terribly wrong.
I just have to ask, why willingly drive into a monster? Like, who wakes up, grabs their car keys, and thinks, you know what sounds great? Chasing a rotating wall of death today. It sounds absolutely insane. If you see a bear in the woods, you don't run straight at the bear.
Okay, but here's the thing. They don't see themselves as reckless. To a storm chaser, they aren't out there just to cheat death. They genuinely believe they're stepping onto the frontier of science to do something much, much bigger than themselves.
The chasers justify it as a strict mission. It's about capturing vital data, dropping probes, and documenting nature to improve early warning systems.
Wait, that's actually crazy. You can't tell me it's purely about data. Nobody drives into an F5 vortex just to fill out a spreadsheet.
The real reason is pure, unadulterated intensity. You know that feeling when you're driving way too fast on a totally empty highway at 2 a.m.? You're hyper-focused, your heart is pounding, everything else just fades away. Now multiply that by 1,000. That's the dragon they're actually chasing.
Section 1. The safest man alive. I'd argue with you there on the adrenaline theory, but to really ground this, let's look at the ultimate voice of reason in the community, Tim Samaras.
Samaras completely shatters your reckless adrenaline junkie stereotype. His method was careful, measured, and incredibly scientific. His entire goal was dropping these heavy-duty, custom tools directly in the storm's path, and then getting out of there. Better data meant better warnings, which literally saves lives. He was like a bomb technician, precise and calculated.
Exactly. He was the absolute gold standard for safety. And honestly, that is exactly why what happens next is pure nightmare fuel. When the safest, most calculated guy in the entire room gets caught, you know the rules of reality just completely broke.
Which brings us to the timeline of the El Reno anomaly. Minute 1. Conditions look dangerous, sure, but entirely manageable for experts.
Right, and by minute 15, the tornado forms. Textbook structure, they've seen this exact setup a million times. It's like watching water boil.
But minute 20. It unpredictably changes direction. It literally loops back on itself.
And by minute 25, it shatters every known physical rule. It grows faster, it gets wider, and it turns its path directly onto the chasers who were supposed to be sitting at a safe distance.
And we're not talking meters here, miles wide. It ballooned to a record-breaking 2.6 miles wide. To put that into perspective, think about your daily commute. Imagine looking in your rearview mirror and instead of a Honda Civic tailgating you, an entire mountain range is suddenly collapsing onto your bumper. That is the sheer, terrifying scale of what they were suddenly sitting inside of. It's completely unfathomable. You just can't outdrive something that instantly swallows the entire horizon.
Let's look at the collapse of safety. Step 1, the tornado shifts. Step 2, their mapped escape roads just disappear into the vortex. Dirt roads turn to thick mud.
And step 3, the rain wraps around. You know when you're driving on the interstate and there's a sudden violent summer downpour and you literally can't see the hood of your own car? You're white-knuckling the wheel, driving completely blind. Multiply that panic by 1,000,000 and add a 300-mile-per-hour blender next to you.
Exactly. And then step 4 happens. The storm accelerates straight toward them. In seconds, they went from being scientists observing a specimen to being trapped inside the blender.
The absolute core tragedy of El Reno is that even the world's leading experts discovered nature still had deadly surprises left. Tim Samaras' flawless calculations were completely overwhelmed. The foundational assumption of storm chasing, that a storm is predictable enough to map a safe escape route, was proven to be a fatal illusion that day.
The math just failed. Mother Nature essentially ripped up the textbook and threw it back at them.
Section 2. The psychology of the sublime. It begs the question, why? Why would anyone ever go back out there after the tragedy of El Reno? You'd think the whole community would just hang up their keys. Well, that's exactly what we need to unpack. Why do they keep chasing?
Psychologically speaking, they are chasing the sublime. The sublime is the strange, overwhelming mix of fear, wonder, and awe, where all your normal everyday thoughts completely disappear. Let me translate that into real life for a second. It's the exact feeling of finally putting your phone on Do Not Disturb to escape those crushing, stressful modern deadlines at work, but multiplied by 1,000. You literally don't have a choice in the matter. You are forced by nature to exist purely in the present moment.
Think about it. Modern life is just a relentless barrage of notifications, emails, algorithms, and endless microstressors. It's loud, but it's incredibly shallow. But the storm, it demands absolute, terrifying presence, silence, focus. When you were standing on a dirt road in front of a 2-mile-wide rotating vortex that is infinitely stronger than you aren't thinking about your mortgage rate. You aren't worried about some awkward Slack message you sent your boss. You are just completely intensely alive.
But there's a very harsh reality here. Knowledge reduces risk, but it never removes uncertainty. We try so incredibly hard to conquer nature with high-tech radar, massive data models, and live mapping software. We trick ourselves into thinking that because we have a screen, we have control.
It's so true. The data can only protect you up until the Earth decides to change the rules. The wild, raw unpredictability of nature does not negotiate with our technology, ever. You cannot argue with a tornado.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Some storms cannot be chased.
El Reno proved that no matter how smart we get, how fast our cars drive, or how dialed in our science is, the Earth can just decide to rewrite the rules whenever it wants.
It forces you to ask the ultimate question. If all our technology, all our data, and all our preparations can be wiped out in an instant by a simple shift in the wind, are we ever truly the ones in control?